here and doing this. I thought I had a couple ideas now, and I'm just going to start off with the first one of them. One of the reasons that when I was a kid getting started playing and discovered, actually the way that I discovered you was because my best friend at the time in high school found a CD in a Coconuts Records in Jacksonville, Florida. It had a trumpet player, and he bought the CD for his dad, who was a trumpet aficionado. And the CD was Red Rodney, Red Alert. And it featured an 18 or 19-year-old Chris Potter. Wow. Remember that CD? Okay?
It's a funny CD.
It is funny.
Very funny. That's the one
Yeah, I believe it's out of print. And when I was in college.
I believe it's on YouTube, though.
Oh, is it? Really?
It is.
Well, I know
at least some of the key.
Is the Charles White Lightning rap over Moose
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So anyway, it was sort of by happenstance, but at that time, I was a few years into playing and really seeking out everything and checking out all these players. And the first time I heard Chris's playing, one of many things that struck me was the clarity of your ideas and sort of the extremely high level of accuracy with which you delivered them. So kind of clarity of ideas, and which leads sort of to the next part, which is your command of time, as in like time feel and time delivery, which I felt was something that set you apart from there were a lot of other players that were fantastic, but like that's something that I've always been super drawn to. Victor Wooten, great bass player, has a quote he loves to throw around saying, "Never lose the groove to find a note." And I feel like you epitomize that. So I just wanted to hear some of your thoughts on how you have thought about, or maybe not thought about, time. And when I say time, I mean like the way that he plays the notes and the way they feel. Like a lot of times in music, especially in music education, a lot of airtime is given to notes, harmony, melody, talking about theory, maybe not so much with rhythm, especially for non-rhythm section players. So just thought.
Yeah, I think one reason for that is that it's so hard to talk about.
Great.
It's
so
hard to. It's kind of hard to. You can talk about what scale goes over what. There's like things that you can break down into smaller parts and analyze it. But yeah, it's that essential thing is that connection to the rhythm is the rhythm is the primary element of music, I would say. You can say that there's rhythm, there's melody, there's harmony. But in a way, you can kind of think of there's no melody that exists outside of rhythm. Harmony exists in rhythm. It's all in time. It doesn't even necessarily have to be metric time. Even like a slow movement of a Mahler symphony, it's still about the rate of time that things are happening, and a connection to how long each thing needs to be, exactly, and how it needs to be phrased. I always feel that if I can connect to that, if I can connect to the time, then I can say something, and I, have spent enough time practicing, hopefully, that I can execute it when I need to, because I can hear it, and then I go, okay, that's the notes. If I can't connect, if I'm not comfortable in some way, nothing works. Nothing. It's kind of, it might kind of, I don't know, sort of sound maybe okay, but it doesn't have that thing. I always know that thing when it's, okay, now that sounds like me and what I meant to say. Because I always start with the idea of music as communication, as a way to say things that you can't really say any other way. If you feel like you're coming from that center place, where you can relax and even be able to get in touch with what it is you want to say. I think that's maybe the key thing too, because you can easily kind of drift, like, oh, what is it? Like before everything focuses for you, you can say something before it gets focused, but maybe better to wait until you can get inside the rhythm of it. And I'm talking about, I mean, not in, you know, this, I'm sort of talking in a bigger way. I'm talking in kind of the more kind of, you know, just the rhythm of experience of life, not necessarily, you know. But in music, it does boil down to being able to connect to that, you know. And if I, you know, if I feel that, then I can do a bunch of things over, you know. You know, it's that kind of articulation that you're talking about that's very specific, you know, like, it has to be something that I've internalized and I can imagine without the horn.
Right.
You know, the horn is this, I mean, it can be a thing to hide behind, but when you choose not to make it like that, then it's an obstacle to get out from, from behind. It's something that you know, have to try and make it do what you imagine it doing.
Yeah.
Which is like, you know, if it's that kind of thing, or it can be. It doesn't have to be that directly rhythmic. You know, like you can hear that I'm feeling the time, and I'm kind of inside it. Even if I'm not directly playing, you know, it's like. It started to drift, sorry. But you kind of get the idea. Like, I'm thinking of it from that, and then trying to be able to do that on the saxophone.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so speaking things on the saxophone, a lot of times when I'm listening to you, whether it's a recording or live, I'm pleasantly surprised the way that the language that you have. It oftentimes it's going somewhere that I didn't expect it to go. So I'm curious, like when it's like in your improvisation and your language that you've developed over these years, like could you maybe share some like ways that have allowed you to find this original kind of path through whether it's your lines or your rhythm or anything, some exercises and things that have helped you, maybe something that's opened up that creativity
Yeah,
for you?
I mean, the thing that you're talking about, it sounds like is exactly the thing that it, you know, if you find a method, if you find a way of doing it, then you know it can be something that can be very useful. But ultimately, it's going to be something that's limiting as well. You know, so the thing you're really looking for is the thing that is not limiting. You know, I'm not that methodical in how I work. I notice I'll kind of go here and then do something else, and then you know, but then I'll see, oh, there's a connection between these two things, and then I'll go, you know, it's a real kind of. I'm not that organized, except that there's an organization that appears. You know what I mean? If you just kind of keep going far enough. That's what do I say about it? It's like I mean, the whole key is creativity at the end of it. Like, that's what's going to make it sound surprising. You know, it's important, it's vital to do the work, you know, of, okay, I hear this idea, all right, can I play it in any key? Can I move it up and down? Can I, you know, figure out how to play it over different parts of the scale? Can I, you know, how does it work into different aspects of harmony? You know, like working, like the work. You know, there's just a lot of practice. There's no substitute for the hours and hours and hours and hours and hours of just, you know, just getting every phrase, thinking about your articulation. Is that it? Is that the sound I like? Okay, there's something about my sound. I'm like, okay, maybe I need to work on long tones. Okay, you know, 2 hours of that. I mean, not that you always have that. There's all that stuff, but then there's that thing that I think you're talking about, where if you're going to say something surprising, it means you kind of have to put your head out of that space completely. Like you've got to internalize it and then forget it 100%, so that you can start making these connections that are really not conscious to you while you do them. I think that's the thing, is I know always, this is something I don't do as much anymore, but I remember I used to do this more, and I learned that how much it doesn't work, which is pretty much anytime I have in mind, okay, I'm going to start a solo here, and I'm going to go to this thing, and I'm going to go to this thing. It always doesn't feel like it works. It doesn't connect. I mean, maybe if I approach it another way, maybe I'll actually do the same thing. But if I have it in my head that, okay, I'm going to start here, I'm going to go there, it just never feels like it flows. I really have learned that if I'm imagining this is the phrase that I should play, and that is absolutely the one phrase I should not play. Now, there's something that I seem to recall in some interviews with Miles Davis, where he I think it's a little bit about this idea. He said a couple different things in two different movies, the way I remember it. He said that he played every third idea that came into his head. So he hears an idea, he doesn't play it. He hears another idea, he doesn't play that one either, he plays the third one. That was one way. And then kind of along those lines, there was another interview where he says something like, he thought of himself that what he was playing when he was improvising is he was playing a counter melody to another melody that he heard in his head.
Sure.
But it's something you can practice doing. I mean, if you know it too, if you have enough command of your materials, you can go, wow, okay, what does that feel like? I mean, try it. Really. It puts you in a different space. I mean, I don't think I could consciously do that all the time. I don't actually think he was doing that kind of stuff all the time. But as a way of getting out of your own way, that's an interesting and useful approach. I thought, when I read that was like, some bells went off. And okay.
You mentioned command of your materials, which I think is actually a great segue into something when you have tremendous command and facility of the horn and material, and you're one of the I think rare. I'm just gonna say you're the best at doing this, playing a song all by yourself on the saxophone and just absolutely nailing every part of it. I remember when I was heck, still now, it's like playing a song, like, oh yeah, I know that song, and I kind of know the song. I know like 60% of the song, but like every song you play, a standard or something, it's like, it inside and out, upside down, sideways, It's all over YouTube, you playing these standards on
illusion,
right? Damn good illusion. So just this, one of the things I get asked often is like, how do you remember tunes? Like, maybe there's that standard, you played Stella by Starlight a million times, but then you haven't played it in 6 years, and then somebody says, hey, can you play that? Yeah. Do you really remember every little thing, or what's your mind look like in that space? You're at a clinic and somebody's like, oh, can you play whatever? And you go, yeah, sure, and you play it all by yourself. Like, what's happening?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of time that I spend working things out on the piano. That's another instrument that, I don't really play well enough to really play, because I just haven't spent the time. But in some ways, I kind of like the piano better. So, I can hear everything at once. It's not as expressive. It's not as vocal, but you can hear all the parts. And you can understand how they fit together. And you can start thinking of harmony in a really like architectural way.
What would you say to somebody who hears that and goes, oh, I haven't thought about playing the piano yet, but I play the saxophone or the euphonium, and it sounds like a good idea. Where should I start?
I mean, playing through standards, playing voicings over the chords, and thinking, a lot about the voice meaning. That's the thing, and like making melodies with the harmony that you're gonna play. The way that you get from one chord to another is gonna create a melody, within the parts. Now, obviously maybe in the top part, but as as you get more advanced, maybe you think about that there should be some contrary motion between the top part and the bottom part. And even within the middle parts, you want those to be melodic too. So that you stop thinking of a chord progression as a set of discrete, not discrete, like, being discrete, but separate things, that it's, okay, this event, this event, this event, this event. And it's more like, oh, okay, this moves to this, these parts move and then come back together and then go up. And, that's what harmony is, and that's how the tune works. So it's not also like in terms of, there are scales that are implied with it all too, but you're not really thinking that way either. You're thinking of the movement of the harmony, and you're trying to make melodies out of that. That's a lot of what I'm doing when I'm working on the piano, trying to play through tunes, is to get that together. So then, when I get the horn, then I'm using that. I use that. That's what it is. That's like when I'm playing by myself and I'm trying to play in a way that I'm really outlining what is going on. It's from working on that.
Right. And maybe even that carries over to like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, would you say that sometimes the time spent at the piano working like that, it's almost like you don't necessarily need the equal amount of time on the saxophone. You can just translate that.
Yeah.
It
it feels like it opens my ears up.
Right.
And even on a technical level, I feel like I can sometimes execute things on the horn after working at the piano for a while, and it has nothing to do with getting this together. What it has to do with is hearing more specifically what it is I meant to say. Nailing it down to like not some kind of half-baked idea of, it's kind of okay, it's exactly this. This is the story. And it takes a lot of kind of a certain amount of self-critical, to not go, that's good enough. It's like, no, that's not actually what I meant. And it also leads you away from necessarily like copying what other people did, which is vital too, to spend time copying what other people did. But when you're thinking that way, you're like, okay, so this is a story, and what happens? And what should the next move be? And the more you get into that way of thinking about it, the more you can approach it that way.
That's great.
So you recently put out the record with Zakir Hussain and Dave on Good Hope. Can you tell us like the experience playing like those Indian rhythms, which I don't feel like in the Western world we don't encounter that a whole lot. So just maybe talk about the challenges that some of those rhythms brought, and maybe you've internalized now from just doing that music with them.
Sort of. Well, I can tell that however I've internalized it in my way, which is very different than how Zakir is thinking about it. It's really interesting to have conversations about that, and him saying, okay, yeah, this is how I'm thinking. Wow, that's how you got to it. That's a whole other path. But it gets kind of to a similar thing. It's just, that particular project, grew out of a larger group that Zakir was saying he put together. And if you don't know who he is, he's like the tabla player of he's the guy. He's so fluent. His mastery of that classical Indian language is so complete.
The Chris Potter of Tabla, is that what you're saying?
No, that's not. But that he just kind of forgets about it, and he's lived in the States for many years, and he's way into jazz music and is interested in that kind of freedom, which they don't have. There's a huge improvisational aspect to Indian music, which is one reason that it works for us to play together. Is that we get into that, but the language is much less codified in jazz. As it happened, I remember when I was like 20, and I was thinking, because I started very young. I think that's part of what kind of helped is just that I started so young. You know, there's a certain fluency you get with something when you started at age 10 versus age 16. You know, I just got really into it at age 10. You know, which isn't the only way to do it. You know, and in a certain sense, like fluency and all that can almost get in your way. You know, then you're like, oh, you think that's enough? But that's actually not enough to say something. But anyway, I'm getting far afield from the original question, which I will get back to. I remember when I was 20 and I was thinking about, okay, I've been listening to Bird, you know, I really love this language, how the whole thing fits together, but I'm feeling like it's limiting me. I don't know where to go. You know, so I was looking for other rhythmic languages. I was, you know, listening to African music, listening to Balkan music, and you know, somebody at that time said, "Yeah, this is tabla player Zakir Hussain and his father, Alaraka, who for years was the tabla player with Ravi Shankar. You know, his father was the guy, also. You know, and I remember buying like a duo record. You know, it's the two of them kind of trading off and then playing kind of pieces together with like a sarangi player or something, you know, kind of keeping a melodic cycle that repeats and repeats, which helps to keep, okay, now here's a 7-beat cycle with this melodic thing, and they're just going off, you know, over the top of it. I used to practice to that. I mean, that's a big way that I used to learn anything, you know. I mean, it wasn't just reading. I actually never got the Omni book, I don't think. I just, you know, I never wanted to read.
There's a lot of mistakes in it.
Are there?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm glad I avoided that, huh? You know, but just playing along with people. I'm not even necessarily trying to play every note that they play, but just getting into that language. So that's how I approached that. I was like, wow, these crazy rhythms are going on. And what is that? You know, even then. And it's funny, I remember telling Zakir this when I met him. I said, you know, it's such a, like, I never dreamed that I would play with the person on that recording. It was a completely foreign musical world for me, you know. But when I mentioned that, he said, well, you know, it's funny because when I was that age, instead of using a metronome, I would shed along to James Brown records. So there's more back and forth there than you may realize, you know. But yeah, you know, so there were ideas in that music that I had already started to think about, but actually playing with Zakir, you know, and realizing just how fully fleshed out his language is, you know, it's like really a wake-up call, and also like, okay, there's no way I'm ever getting there. So let me try and find a way in my language that I can work with that, you know, and be inspired by it. If I decided to become an expert at it, I would have to go down the rabbit hole for about 10 years, which I have other things that I think I should be doing. But that's what it would take, and to scratch the surface.
Does anybody have a question they'd like to ask? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested in your approach to composition. I started as a sax player and then quickly went to guitar. And I know it's a very different orientation towards music, like the very chordal based in guitar, very melody based in saxophone. And I saw one of your videos where you actually wrote a composition off the song of the Eastern Tui.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah,
The bird song. Yeah. So, but I was just wondering if that's the way it is for you, where you start with a melody and then go from there, or is it different?
It depends.
Yes.
Sometimes there's a rhythmic cycle that I start out with, and then a melody appears from that. Sometimes it's a melody, sometimes it's a little set of changes. It really depends. But it usually starts with a mood in some way. Like whatever idea it is suggests a kind of mood for the piece, and then if I can connect to that, then I can write the piece. Some of them come very fast, and they're just, oh, okay, thanks. You know. Usually, the idea comes very fast, and then there's a lot of editing. You know, practice to go through that editing thing. I mean, I think part of the lesson there is, you can turn almost anything into something that works or not, depending on what you do with it. The original idea for it, I mean, it's not that it doesn't matter, it does. But that's really a starting point. I mean, I would use the examples like da 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 da, all right? Kind of a lame idea, right? I mean, if you think about it, okay, that's, so it's what he did with it. It's the way that you work with the ideas and the way, writing a fully kind of fleshed out composition where, like for a larger ensemble or something, where it's kind of more through composed is a very different kind of experience than writing like a lead sheet kind of tune. Now when I'm writing for a small group, usually I'm trying to leave a lot of empty space. I'm kind of trying to think of the zen of it and go, okay, well, if I overwrite this, it's really not going to be that fun to play because it's going to be locking me into this. And I'm thinking about, okay, I'm writing, the 7% of the, like you hear the melody, and then that's maybe, and then the other 93% is basically going to be improvisation over that. So let me try and come up with something real strong, really strong, that sets a mood that it, makes sense for that to be a piece that you can do a bunch of different things with, and it still is that piece, which is hard. That's what's hard about that. The thing that's hard, also fun about writing like more through composed or pieces for larger ensembles is, that's when you can work on the development and write the whole thing through, which I find is also good practice as an improviser. I feel like from writing, big band charts or things for orchestra, things for kind of some hybrid groups that I've heard before in the past, it's like looking at music from an equal's eye view, and like, okay, so this is going to happen, and then okay, it needs to settle down here so that it's going to go to this. And if I introduce this instrument that hasn't really taken the lead here, that will be an interesting change. It's thinking of the story in that way, which as an improviser, I don't want to do that in a small group setting, because I want that exact thing to happen on its own through the interplay of the musicians.
I feel like we were just talking about before we started, this gentleman up here has a record of Chris's that I have been having in college, or in high school maybe, called Moving In. And there's a song on there, I don't know what it's called, but it goes, that's the one with the breath thing, right? It was like a soprano tune on there. What's that called? Book of Kells, that was the one. So I charted out this song, I transcribed the whole song, not just his solo, but like I tried in my Berkeley dorm to write down the piano part and the bass part and figure the whole thing out. And then I bugged him about getting a lesson, and finally he capitulated, and I showed up at his doorstep in New York, and one of the first things I asked him, I was like, so I just want to check this, I transcribed your song, Book of Kells, and the piano part is really amazing. What is it? Can I see what you actually wrote down for it? And he goes, oh, I just wrote the changes. Brad Mello came up with that.
So really, that's what I'm saying the secret is hire Brad Mello.
Hey, so I think it's fair to say that your sound is really unique. I think like if anyone puts a Chris Potter album on, they're gonna be like, yeah, that's Chris Potter. So I was wondering if you kind of had that sound in mind and worked toward that, or if it was like a natural result of, I don't know, maybe experimenting with gear, like exercises with tone stuff.
I mean, sound is I think it's the aspect I think about the most. So there's not a simple answer. It's a lot of it's everything you just mentioned and more things. The thing that I think about a lot is how like you see a musician come out on stage, even before they play a note, you get a feeling for what maybe it's going to be like. It's really obvious with drummers, right? You can tell as the stick goes up to the cymbal. Sometimes you're like, okay, that is not going to be swinging. Or you're like, okay, this is going to be good. You know, just their relationship to the instrument. You know, and then the sound. You know, it's I don't even know where to begin. I mean, a lot of it is it's listening to other musicians. I mean, it's, you know, like my first, you know, the thing that got me interested in the saxophone was listening to my folks had a few jazz records, you know, and they had you know, some Miles records of Coltrane and some Charles Lloyd records, but they had Time Out, you know, Dave Brubeck record with Paul Desmond. And I thought, wow, what a beautiful sound. Because when I was growing up, you know, listening to the radio, pop radio, like, I hated the saxophone. I really didn't like it. It's like, whenever there was a saxophone solo, I was kind of, I liked the song until, like, it should have been a guitar solo. But when I heard that, I was like, wow, maybe there's some beauty in this that I didn't see. And it was like, you know, like a food that you really don't like as a kid. You think it's disgusting, and then you kind of try it. And it's still disgusting, but good. Like, that was the saxophone for me. And I got so interested in it that I wanted to get one. And then I Paul Desmond. But then I did like the next, you know, huge influences were the guys at Duke Ellington's band. Good, you know, Johnny Hodges and Paul Gonzalez and Harry Carney. You know, just these sounds, and I still, I mean, when I hear that saxophone section, I hear everybody still, it's just like, it's so rich, it's so much, I don't know what you call it. You can call it information, you can call it, you know, whatever, but it's so human, you know. So I tried to copy that, and then I got into Bird, you know, which is a very different sound conception. Okay, what is that? How do I do that? And you kind of, you know, you listen to it, you get that sound in your head, and you start going for that, you know. And if you do that with enough people, if you kind of only do that with one person, then yeah, you're going to sound like that person. And that's a part of the growth process, is kind of going through a Joe Henderson phase, and it's like, okay, everything sounds like Joe. You know? That's a part of it. But you do that with enough people, and you pay attention to what you want to say. And it just kind of starts being something else, something that's yours. Because, you know, the idea of that you have to look for your own voice is a little misleading, I think, you know, because it implies you need to construct it or something. It seems to me that it's more, I mean, everyone is different. We have a different body, we have a different way of talking, different rhythm to how we walk and everything, you know, so that's just gonna be there. But it's a matter of checking out enough different things and then just not being afraid to go for what you actually like instead of thinking you're supposed to play one way. You know, so it's a matter of kind of getting out of the way of whatever process is keeping you from finding that, more than constructing something out of scratch.
There's some video, I think it was Oscar Peterson receiving an award, it's probably on YouTube, where he was giving a speech, and it was like a Lifetime Achievement Award, and he said, he almost was in tears, and he was like, I don't know what to say, whatever I am you're hearing that you like is just my failure to sound like Art Tatum. Yeah.
What's your process for learning and practicing altissimo, and how you stay in tune with it? Yeah.
Altissimo was a mess. It's a drag. But when it works, it's so effective. You know, lots of long tones and then harmonics, you know, lots of just playing the low B flat, playing that for a few minutes. You know, I mean, I don't always do this now, but I've been doing things where, you know, I really like just 2 or 3 minutes of, you know, long as I can hold it, and then when I need to take a breath, I take a breath, I do it again. You know, and then the same thing in octave up on the D flat and the F and the B flat, D. You know, eventually you're up there, D flat, the altissimo, the D, the altissimo. If you spend a few minutes on each one of those partials, and it's excruciating, you know, unless you, I mean, as the person doing it, you can kind of get into maybe a meditative state as you do it.
Neighbors love it.
Yeah, your neighbors probably are not in that same meditative state.
I think a lot of times people think altissimo is, you know, everybody's thinking it's up high, what can you do? And what you're just kind of saying is actually it starts down low. Then
Right, right. But it all has to connect. And if you do that, you start feeling, oh, it's all kind of one, you know, it doesn't feel as separate. And it feels like, I mean, it feels like the horn is shrunk or something, like it's smaller. And you can manage it. It's a weird thing. That helps. And then just, yeah, forcing yourself to feel it there. I mean, I'll say, you know, there's a lot to be said, and this is a much bigger topic, but for designing exercises for yourself where you're improvising within a certain set of parameters. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, okay, I'm only going to play half notes, which is surprisingly hard. That's like that voice meeting thing. You know, if whatever note you decided, you got to stay there. And if it's not a good one, you got to just wait for the next one. You can say, okay, rhythmically, I'm only going to play triplets. You know. But another thing you can do is say, okay, I'm only going to play in the altissimo. I'm going to play all the things you are, but I'm not going to go below the palm key D. And just, you know, and just see how far you can get. I mean, it can be really rough, but eventually you maybe start hearing it as a not just as a place to go for the, you know, the money scream at the end, but like that you can use that in other ways too, to actually, you know, to make other kinds of music with it, you know, but it's a work in progress. I mean, it's a pain in the neck to get this one. Definitely.
When you play the boogie stop shuffle, so you play 7 and 3, bang, 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 1, 2, 3, bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, it's like 7 and 6.
So when you improvise it, do you think the whole thing, or you separate a little bit about 7 and a little bit about 3? How do you?
That's a good question. Yeah, I mean,
make it easy, you know, because if you think of every beat, like I do think about that, maybe you get lost. About the harmony, about the song changes, you know what I mean?
Approaching any kind of odd meter music like that, I find that, you know, that there's a learning curve to it, and it can feel really uncomfortable at the beginning, you know, like you said. Like that's one that you mentioned, I mean, it was an arrangement that I did with the Charles Mingus 2 Step Shuffle, and it was like, you know, a bar of 7 and a bar of 6, so it's like 13. I mean, you know, the original one, you know, it's just a blues. So that's like the basic thing. So I made it, you know, and yeah, it was really tricky at first to try and play over that, and I find myself, you know, just really like maybe even trying to play bass lines, you know, or real simple melodies that fit that, you know. And as I got more and more comfortable with it, then I could go further into different things. The thing about all that odd meter music is, you know, it can feel so uncomfortable at the beginning, but if you just keep turning it around in your head and keep doing it, you forget about it. There's no way, I mean, there's no way to think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's really not how I'm internalizing it at all. If I'm internalizing it, you know, it's more like there's kind of like a, you know, you can describe it as a cloud. You know? And to get to where that feels like a, you know, something that you can move to, and you start forgetting what it even is. Like, there's a lot of these odd meter tunes that things I've written, things I've played a lot with other people, and someone so what time signature was that in? And I don't know. I know how it goes. I can play it, but I have to sit there and count it and go, oh yeah, that was a 9. Because I'm not thinking about the number at all. I'm thinking about
I feel.
the
Groove.
the groove.
Well, Chris, I know you've had quite a busy day, and there's probably still more to come. So, I think do you have any parting words of wisdom for the folks here who might find themselves in the practice room within the next week? And they walk in and they're not sure what to do.
Well,
I know that's very general, but just like what comes to mind?
the first thing that comes to mind is that the only reason I've worked this hard at it and spent this kind of ridiculous amount of time that I've spent doing it is because I really enjoy it. And if you can connect with that, just go for what you really enjoy doing, and if you can approach it like you're a kid playing with blocks, and it's fun, and it's frustrating sometimes because you want to find things to work on that are at a level of difficulty that are that you can't do them, but they're not so far that you just get frustrated. They're like kind of within just a little bit above, and then you go for the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. And if you keep a hold of what it is that you love about music in the first place, and that everything you're working on is going towards being expressed, the idea of being able to express something that means something to you that you want to share with other people, then you can take some of the kind of pressure off. You can take some of the I suck, because we all have that.
Enjoy it. I like that. Well, we've certainly enjoyed having you here as we all go through.